Agree with what you're saying, but myself and Bugs Bunny and Chuck Norris all being the same age, I can remember Douglas MacArthur, who had all of these qualities and more, and he was kind of torpedoed in his run for president, but he didn't like illegal wars, and here we are without a legal commander-in-chief involved in an illegal war. It started with a country that never bothered us. And relating back to all our failures that caused our 911 thing. Anyway, that's enough of ranting and raving on that. I hope that that you're one of the good guys that voted for Ron Paul's Audit the Fed bill.
I'm a co-sponsor of it. It has not come up for a vote yet.
I believe that you were. I just wanted to congratulate you on that.
Well, I think I see a Screaming Eagles cap back there, even with my bad eyes, so I want to thank you for what you've done.
Well, I figured I had an obligation to the country, but I made sure that when we were jumping out of airplanes to kill people on the ground with a gun in our hand, that I always landed on my head, so I never got hurt. So, but anyway, and I was wondering about your opinion on this global warming fraud. I mean, it's been proven clearly a fraud. And have you read those scandalous emails? And as far as I know, Rush Limbaugh in his newsletter is the only one that has actually published these emails that show that these people are perpetrating a fraud. It's going to cost us a lot of money.
I have not seen the emails. I can tell you that one of the treasures that's here in South Mississippi that most people aren't aware of is we have two Navy oceanographic commands out at the Stennis Space Center. That's the guys who are on a day-to-day basis out there predicting the weather, the currents and whatnot, should we ever have to take a beach by force, like D-Day.
This guy right here works for that office, and he's a climatologist.
Okay.
He can tell you all about it.
Well, in the admirals that I've talked to, again, not these guys that the Corps talks to, but the admirals that I've talked to from their command do think we're in a period of warming. They also encourage us to look at weather not in 5-year cycles, not 10-year cycles, more like 1,000-year cycles. And so that this, okay, so I'm willing to do that. I've also been blessed to have, over the years, had some really crummy cars. And the reason I'm going to say that is, I've had some with cracked exhaust manifolds. I've had some with broken head pipes. I recently had one with a busted muffler. And I can tell you, driving around in that car with that cracked manifold, it's going to give you a headache after a while. And you drive up to Jackson, as I did regularly in that, you're actually going to get out sometimes physically sick. The reason I say that is I am more concerned with trying to clean up what comes out that tailpipe, knowing that it smells pretty bad and it makes people sick, if we can. When the technology exists, and quite honestly, it does. You know, a lot of guys down here hit shrimp boats. Almost every one of those shrimp boats had a 71 series GM engine in it. They leaked almost as much oil as they used, and they're just filthy black exhaust.
Two-stroke diesel.
Two-stroke diesel. But the newer diesels, the Tier 3, and I now have one on my boat, use less fuel, a heck of a lot cleaner, don't leak oil all over the bilge, and so we can get better when we make the decision we're going to get better. And I'm not doing it so much for the polar bear as I know how sick that exhaust fume made me. And if we can clean that stuff up, then it's good for everybody. And I think that's the logical approach to take this.
Well, that's good.
Yes, ma'am.
He doesn't.
It still makes you sick. Yes, ma'am.
He knows why.
Did you have a question? I appreciate your observation.
Are they aware that when you put ice in a glass of water and it melts, that it doesn't change the water level?
That's true.
And so even if the swimming caps were to completely melt.
Okay, that's interesting observation.
It's not an
Yeah,
observation.
I can
It's
tell you, I've
fact.
lived on the Bay of St. Louis. I have not noticed anything anywhere near
I also didn't
a
allow
tidal
an
rise.
opposing opinion to
And
speak.
interestingly enough, in the course of my job, I've been down to Panama, mostly looking at drug runners, and was on this island. The maximum elevation is about this high. And met with the Kuna Indian chief, who was like 70 years old. And I said, Chief, if you notice, you're only 3 feet above sea level, how often does this island flood? He said, never. I said, never? You're 70 years old, it's never flooded? No. So how much is it risen? He said, it happened. So again, I'm more concerned with that poison coming out that tailpipe, doing what we can to clean it up, than what some other folks are saying. And I do agree with the Navy when they say we are on a warming trend, even though we're not seeing it tonight, that they're 1,000-year cycles, and that, we just don't want to make that any worse than we have to. Yes, ma'am.
On the environmental front, the EPA recently...
Ma'am, for the
I'm
sake
sorry.
of everyone else, would you please stand and say your name?
I will. Patty Thurber from Ocean Springs.
Okay.
On the environmental front, the EPA recently classified carbon dioxide as a toxic gas. I am told that Congress can do something to take that power away from the EPA. I, for one, think it's a little ridiculous to think of carbon dioxide that we're all breathing out as a toxic substance. And I am concerned about the ramifications as far as regulations and taxes may be concerned. I am told that Congress can do something to mitigate what the EPA has done, and I was wondering if you would address that, please.
Yes, ma'am. Number one, I think you're the first person to bring that to my attention. You're the first person that I remember bringing that to my attention. And on a regular basis, Congress tells the EPA, yeah, but. No matter, no matter which party is in the White House, no matter which party is controlling the House and Senate, on a number of occasions, Congress has said, yeah, but. And I'll give you a perfect example. They wanted to regulate, I already vote on it, but the EPA wanted to say that you could have zero discharge off the deck of your vessel if you're a recreational boat owner. Zero. The rainwater could not even wash off. I'm not talking about oily rainwater, rainwater. I sponsored legislation, along with a couple other guys, that said we're going to exempt recreational boats, we're going to exempt commercial boats up to a certain size, and then if we got a problem, let's look at it on a case-by-case basis. I can also tell you that this EPA get a little wacky, sure. Right in front of you is Mr. Lagarde. I take great pride in having worked with Mississippi Department of Transportation and others to take some bridges that were going to come down anyway, take them offshore and make fishing reefs out of them. You would think that everybody go, yeah, that makes sense. It's cheaper than trucking. It's going to help the environment. And to the best of my knowledge, we had to get a permit from the Secretary of State's office, because he said, you're building me an island, and it's now going to be property of Mississippi. I'm not so sure I want an island. We had to get permits from the Coast Guard, who's going to mark it, what kind of lights. We had to get permits from Fish and Wildlife because they were afraid that we might drop a rock on a Gulf sturgeon's head. Dead serious. They took the longest to get the permit. We had to get a permit from the state of Mississippi because it's in their state waters, Mississippi Department of Marine Resources. And if I'm not mistaken, we had to get a permit from EPA.
And Corps of Engineers.
And Corps of Engineers.
This is all the stuff that you created.
That's the point.
That's right. That's true. Yes, that's true.
No, to that point, I wish you wouldn't interrupt. To that point, the Coast Guard, the nation has regulated what you put in the water. Abraham Lincoln made his start as a railroad lawyer, wanting to put a bridge across the Mississippi River. And of course, the steamboats were objecting because how are we going to get through? So you do have to look at the unintended consequences of what you do. And most of those environmental laws have been on the books since the 50s and 60s. But, and yes, so we on a regular basis are talking to those folks and said, use your head and your heart. And let's have some common sense about this. And almost every time we prevail. Yes, sir.